So yes, in the last class we were discussing about, I think, sovereign immunity. That was the topic, and we had looked at a couple of cases, and then so far it seems pretty good. Okay, then comes the next important development. Okay, that happened in the year 1960.
So 1 minute.
Yes.
So, okay, please, sir, upload every lectures so that we can revise once again every lectures on our YouTube channel.
Have I not uploaded every lecture? I think every single lecture that I have taken.
Yes, sir. You
Yes,
uploaded.
So the next ones also you please upload so we can
every single one will be uploaded while I'm speaking to you right now. It is being recorded, so do not worry.
Okay, sir. Thank
every
you.
Single
Thank you, sir.
I've been doing that for all subjects. Do not worry.
Okay. Thank you, sir.
But that doesn't mean that you guys are not take that as an excuse to be not present in the class.
No, sir. No, I'm
just
present.
Just telling you guys. So turn your videos on. Turn your videos on. Because it's important that you guys are here and we learn through discussion and deliberation. As I have told you many times that I do not come here, without preparation. I do my bit of preparation before I dare to come and stand before you. You guys are all smart people. I say something stupid, you will point that out to me. So yeah, I have to be extremely careful about what I speak here. But then, I should not be able to make, fools out of you. I should not be able to say, random nonsense and then just go back and claim my salary. So it's your responsibility to keep me on track. And I should say this all the more because I'm drawing salary from here. And apart from that, I have been, this is the first time that I'm teaching this subject. So it's been long I have learned this subject. So here's you. You are my guru as well. While I claim here to be teaching you this subject. So yeah, do your bit of homework. Go back, study, come back, and don't worry. Every single lecture that we have here, every discussion that we have here will be recorded and then uploaded. So you can point me out even later that okay, sir, here's where you went wrong. So no problem with that. It's a process of learning. We learn together. So don't worry. So we were discussing about, I think, sovereign immunity, okay, the act of state, okay, or sovereign immunity. So here when we are talking about sovereign immunity, we're not talking about foreign sovereigns. We are talking about the state as against, the citizens, okay. Can the state take the defense of, we are the sovereign, so no case lies against us, okay. So I told you that historically that has been the case, okay, in England, where there was this idea of, supremacy of the sovereign, that, laws come from sovereign, your legal rights also come from sovereign. Then how can we make the sovereign, which is the source, the foundation of your legal rights, okay, responsible for violation of such a right? Okay, how could that be? So it's like saying, okay, holding God responsible, okay. So how can you do that? Everything comes from God. Okay, I don't believe personally in any such thing, but the logic is like that. So yeah, but we have discussed the state of Rajasthan versus Vidyavati case in the last class, in which it has been said that okay, this is a relic of the past, okay, some kind of British foolishness, okay, which should not be there. Of course it should not be, and of course it is not in existence in India the same way that it exists in England, because in England they have something called parliamentary sovereignty, okay, supremacy, sovereignty, and there is no constitutional document that restricts the power of the parliament. So it can give you rights, it can take away your rights, at least theoretically, maybe not in practice, okay. But in India we have a constitution, and certain limitations are imposed on the so-called sovereign that we have here by virtue of a entrenched document. So obviously you have fundamental rights protection, but that goes into public law. What about private law? Can we treat the state as just any other, parties, okay, in a civil suit related to tort? So we discussed in the first case, okay, today, that no such thing exists, okay. But then comes a kind of, regressive development, okay, that happens in the year 1965, okay, in the case by the name Raliaram Jain versus State of UP. I will type this, just a second, so that So if you just say Kasturi Lal case, okay, people will know which case is being referred to. Okay. Now, why did I say this is a kind of regressive development? It's basically kind of reverting back to the old idea of sovereign immunity taken to certain extremes. Okay. So what happens in this case? So in this case, there's this partners, okay, partner of Kasturi Lal Raliaram, okay, who goes from Amritsar to Meerut, okay, to sell some gold and silver. Okay. Now while he is there, okay, he is arrested, taken into police custody. Okay. On certain charges. Okay. The charge was essentially that he was possessing stolen property. Okay. So he is kept in police custody. His gold and silver is taken. Okay, and put in police malkhana. Okay. The next day he is so why he is kept in the lockup, and the next day he is released, okay, from the custody. So when he asks for the gold and the silver, he's given his silver but not the gold. Now what happens is that one of the constable, okay, who's in charge of the that malkhana, takes the gold and escapes to Pakistan. Okay. And then the matter is taken to court. Okay. So on behalf of the state, okay, so what was the defense that you would assume that they would come up with? Okay, because this constable here was doing some sovereign duty. Okay, case of law enforcement, so he was doing his duty, which is a kind of delegated duty of the state, isn't it? We discussed about what are sovereign functions. Okay, so as you would guess in this case, okay, it was that was the defense that was taken, that okay, it is an act of state. Okay, so a state cannot be made liable here. Okay. So it was found that the police officers had failed to follow even the UP police regulations in taking care of the gold. Okay. So there was some kind of, lack of care. Okay. However, what do you think that the state, the Supreme Court must have held in this case? Make a guess. Okay. Did the Supreme Court find in this case the state liable for this loss of gold jewelry, by a person who was kept in the police custody and his jewelries were put in police malkhana? Would you think, okay, make a guess here, okay, what must have the Supreme Court held?
Sir, was his imprisonment and the
No, it wasn't imprisonment, okay, because imprisonment happens only after trial. So he was merely kept in police custody on suspicion of possession of, stolen property. But then next day he is released, okay. And when he asks for returning the jewelries, he had gold and returning of his precious metal. I don't know if it was jewelry. Okay, so maybe it was, but it was gold and silver. The silver was returned, but the gold wasn't. Okay, why? Because one of the constable who was in charge of the malkhana took the gold and escaped to Pakistan. Okay, so we also saw that the UP police failed to take the care of the gold. Okay, but when the matter was taken to the court, their defense was that their defense was that, well, act of state. Okay. What do you think? Make a guess, okay? Who do you think the Supreme Court must have, held for? The partner here, okay, who was put in custody, or the state?
The constable, I guess, sir.
The state not
the constable
liable
is not here. He has escaped.
The state
okay.
not liable. The state not liable.
So state should be held liable because he was under the police custody.
Okay, so according to...
No, sir.
According to me, state is not liable.
The state
okay, now think of it like this. Okay, think of it. Let me make it a little more, relatable to you. Okay, because we don't know who this person is. Seems to be an alien case. Okay, think of yourself as that. Okay, so when you come to this, here, Guwahati. So, for example, you have with you your gold and silver. Okay, it's not stolen; it's your property. Okay, you come here. Then the police arrest you under the suspicion that you are possessing stolen, goods. You are put in custody. Your things are taken. Okay, your gold and silver is taken. Next, they release you when they find that, okay, nonsense, okay, just a wrong assumption here, okay. And then you ask for the jewelries, okay, and then the police give you your, silver but not the gold, okay. You approach the court, okay, saying that, okay, where's my gold? Or if my gold cannot be returned, but give me the compensation for that, then, okay. You say that my rights have been violated here. And then the police, okay, the state say that, okay, act of state, okay. The constable here was a delegate of the state, okay, doing certain duties, but while he was doing this, duty, which was a delegation by the sovereign, he just misappropriated and then left the country. So the state says that what can we do? So they say that act of state, that's the defense. What do you think, okay, the Supreme Court should decide now in such case?
State would not liable in this.
Okay, I think there's someone who says that. Vishwajit, is it there? Is it you?
Sir, because police officer stolen that object in his personal capacity, like stealing something is not a sovereign immunity.
Sir, but
Okay.
Sir, I think state is not liable in this case. It get
he was
defense.
working
Okay,
under
one
the
at a time.
authority
One
of
at a
the
time.
state,
Let
right?
Samriddhi speak, then I will
Sure.
come to the next. Yes, Samriddhi. Yes, yes.
Sir, I would say that he was under the authority of the state. He was
Okay.
working under the constable was working under the authority. Of the
Okay,
state.
yes,
So
that's
he
what
should
the
be
state
held
says.
liable, right?
Okay, so
The
Samriddhi
state should
says.
be held.
Samriddhi says.
Although,
Let me sir.
although,
Yes, Rishikesh. Yes, tell me.
yeah, so although the constable had to be held liable due to vicarious liability,
Mhm.
I think in those circumstances he was not held liable, because in that case particularly, I think the Supreme Court gave the verdict that it will be under sovereign immunity, and although the Supreme Court narrowed down the scope of sovereign immunity in the later cases, in that case the state was not held liable.
Okay, so you've read the case, so you're telling me this, okay, but my question was not what was held, but what do you think the court should do? Anyway, good answer though, you've read it. But here's the thing, okay, this person, okay, this partner of Kasturi Raliaram, okay, he didn't go against the constable, okay, he didn't even know until it was, told, okay, so he would obviously go to the state, okay, because he didn't hand over his belongings to the said person as an individual, okay, so obviously that's the case, so he will be considered as a delegate of the state, okay, he was working in his official capacity. So yes, so as Rishikesh has rightly said, the outcome of this judgment is that even in this case, okay, where there's a clear case of negligent handling of goods belonging to this fellow, the court came to a sad conclusion, as I think here, that okay, it held that it's a clear case of act of the state, okay, so it's kind of a plea of sovereign immunity which has been accepted, okay, which received much rightfully much criticism, okay. Why is that? Okay, so the question is simply this, okay, that the very idea of act of state or sovereign immunity does not really stand the test of today's time, okay. It's no longer there. We do not any longer subscribe to the same idea of sovereign as it existed 200 years back, okay. In today's time, when we constrain the power of the sovereign in terms of fundamental rights, it is all the more necessary that we make a body which is so much powerful, has so much awesome power, okay, be made liable under the law, okay. The idea is that law does not emanate unidirectionally from the superior, okay. The superior will also be subjected to certain laws, okay. If that is the idea that we subscribe to, then why the hell would act of state or sovereign immunity still be there, okay. Even in such case, it should not have been held by the court that okay, the defense of sovereign immunity, or it should have held that okay, sovereign immunity no longer exists as a defense to the extent that it existed. Obviously, in certain cases you need it, okay, as I mentioned earlier, okay, in certain cases you do need it, okay. So for example, by virtue of a legislation your rights are taken away, well, that's a clear case of sovereign function, okay. A act of warfare, okay, those are exceptional cases, okay, but in all other cases, like the one that we described here just now, it seems silly to come to such a conclusion, with all due respect to this great judge. Okay, so Gajendra Gatkar was the Chief Justice who said this. Okay, he had said this, that the act of negligence was committed by police officers while dealing with the property of Ralia Ram, which they had seized in the exercise of their statutory powers. Now the power to arrest a person, to search him, and to seize property found with him are powers conferred on the specified officers by statute. And in the last analysis, they are powers which can be properly characterized as sovereign powers. So these powers were characterized as sovereign powers. Okay, and so there is no difficulty in holding that the act which gave rise to the present claim for damages has been committed by the employees, okay, of the respondent during the course of their employment. It was done during the course of employment, but the employment in question being of the category which can claim the special characteristics of sovereign power, the claim, okay, cannot be sustained. Okay, so it was essentially this case. Okay, so how did they reconcile this conclusion that they arrived at with that of Vidyapati's case that we discussed the other day? By saying that, okay, Vidyapati's case did not apply to sovereign immunity. So that's or sovereign power. Okay, so that's the kind of conclusion that the court arrived at. Okay, so legally you might say that, okay, it seems fine, but the problem here is this, that the idea of sovereign power, sovereign immunity is no longer what it used to be 200 years back. Okay, that power or law is unidirectional emanation from one all-powerful being, lawmaker. It's not like that. Even the lawmaker is also subjected to the law itself, okay, which is a jurisprudential discussion. We are not going to do that, okay, now. But then this was a step backward, as many have criticized, okay. And I told you that ultimately this entire decision was attributed to the case we discussed the other day, that is P&O, Steamship Navigation Company, in which Peacock CJ had also made the similar distinction between sovereign and non-sovereign functions, giving rise to this assumption that, okay, yes, there is a distinction between sovereign and non-sovereign function, okay, which still exists, okay. So keep this in mind, that this distinction still exists, okay. So what the hell am I whining about then? Well, it is simply this, that what is considered to be sovereign function, okay, has to be restricted further, okay. So far we do not have any authority that has explicitly overruled the ratio of this case, okay. But we have so many developments happening subsequently that the authority of this statute, okay, this case stays attenuated to a great degree, okay. So subsequently we have another case, okay, State of Gujarat versus Mammal, okay, Mammal Muhammad, I guess, okay. In this case also certain goods were confiscated, okay, under the Sea Customs Act, okay, and were not properly kept and were disposed of by the order of a magistrate, okay. So further, on a suit for the value of the goods against the state, the Supreme Court held that when the seizure was illegal, okay, there arose bailment and statutory obligation to return the goods, and the suit is maintainable. But here the distinction is clearly this, that even the seizure is considered to be illegal, okay. So you wouldn't consider, so probably the distinction is still there, okay. They are still making this distinction that there is something called sovereign function and there is something called clearly not sovereign function, okay. So that's the state of affairs with respect to sovereign immunity. But as you know, okay, because of the public law, this, yes, I'll come to you. Because of the public law as it exists in India, the importance, okay, the weight of this case, okay, remains attenuated. Yes, who is it? Tell me again. Yes, there was a question by someone.
Sir, Rahul here.
Yeah,
Sir,
Rahul.
Rahul here.
Yes, Rahul, tell me.
Yes, sir. Sir, my doubt is that it happened in the case of Srishant, the cricketer who was caught in during for match fixing.
Uh-huh.
My doubt was that when the money he earned from match fixing as well as his legitimate earning were seized by the Delhi police, then and it was kept under police custody, but his illegally earned money was seized altogether, but the money he earned legally was also being seized. Now, during the time of demonetization, his money was not rightfully converted into the newer notes, and when he claimed that he should be able to get that money back, he could not, and that it was seized altogether. So even here, will the this case apply of sovereign power?
See, here's the thing. Okay, this is a very interesting case of which I'm not aware. Okay, I did not take interest in this case. Okay, but it's a very good contribution that you are making. Okay, so if you were to approach the court in this particular case, okay, saying that okay, if I had my legitimately earned money in my possession, okay, I would have been able to convert the currency into the new currency. Okay, so he's able to say that he seems to be justified in saying that okay, this is within my I'm within my right to be able to do that now, because the currency, as you were telling me, is in the government custody, so I have not been able to do that, and now that the deadline is over, so I'm not able to do that. Okay, so I need to be compensated. Okay, so I don't know about any more than this about this case. So given in the light of this limited information that you have said, okay, unless the state was justified under a particular statute, okay, in confiscating the money, okay, unless that is there, okay, in confiscating even the legitimately earned money, okay, I think he has a right. But if the state did confiscate the money in the light of some justification, some statutory power that it has, then I think he has less likely chances of having a case. Okay, so it depends whether the confiscation of the money has happened legally or not. Okay, is that okay?
Thank you, sir.
Okay, so you have to look into it.
Yes, sir.
Since I do not know, so I'm giving you a conditional answer here. So it will depend on the legality of the confiscation. Okay, even his legitimately earned money. Just a second, I have a question here, sir. Yeah, obviously. So it has been said in the judgment itself that it was clearly an exercise of case of exercise of sovereign power. So his confiscation was not illegal. So on suspicion of certain suspicion, the police held. Nor do we have the information here that says that okay, it was illegal. It doesn't. So we are assuming that it was legal. But then subsequently, when the constable takes it and then flees from the country, that's a different thing altogether. That's clearly illegal. But state is saying that okay, we are not liable for the act of why? Well, act of state. Is that clear, Shivang Mishra? Okay. Yes.
Yes, sir. Thank you, sir.
Sir?
Yes. Rishikesh.
Sir, I'm having one problem.
Oh, Arnab. Sorry.
Yes.
Arnab, yes, tell me.
Sir, am I audible?
Yes, you are.
Sir, I am having one problem in that Kasturilal case.
Yes, tell me.
Like, it's are being confiscated by the police.
Mm-hmm.
And it's problem of the police and that police personnel that he stole that particular ornament and erector.
Mm-hmm.
So you think that the compensation need to be given to that jeweler by the state government because it's their duty to protect the ornaments which is being confiscated under their part of the work.
So here's the thing. See, so when the gold was confiscated, okay, who had the responsibility to take care of the gold? Who had? Can you tell me?
So government should have that.
The state, exactly. So he is saying that okay, you had it with you, okay. So you give it back to me, and if you're not able to give it back to me, then just pay me compensation. Give me compensation, okay. So it seems that he is very much within his right to say so. And this should in fact have been the decision. Yes, government took it, so and he was not illegally possessing it, so government has no right to confiscate his property. Okay, and he should very much rightfully be returned his property. This is what you would expect, that the judgment should have been. But this is not what was held. That and why is it that this is not the conclusion that the court arrived at? Because they had this overblown idea of sovereign immunity in mind. Okay. Saying that, okay, what did the constable do? He fled, okay, with the gold, okay, and he did it, okay, while he was, in his, course of, duty. So he did it during that period of time, okay. So the state assumed that, okay, because he was doing it, okay, as a delegate of the sovereign, certain powers which were, given to him, okay. So, it says that the state cannot be made liable for the same, okay. Why? Because what he was doing was a sovereign function, okay, and because it was sovereign function, it cannot be made liable, okay. That is what has been held, or at least that's how I understood, okay, Justice Gajinder Gatkar, explaining the situation to us, okay. So it was held ultimately that, okay, no liability can be imposed on the state. And that, to me, if you were to ask me, seems to be very wrong, because state should not have such blanket immunity from liability. That's my position. Even in such case, in this case, the defense of, state immunity should not have been, allowed, okay? Because, as I said, the idea of state immunity and idea of sovereignty should be reduced and curtailed to as much, as possible, okay? Only in those cases. So, for example, as I told you, act of warfare, okay, or lawmaking. Clearly, in those cases, it seems that, okay, yeah, these are certain things that the sovereign inevitably needs to do. All other things, sovereign should be treated as any other ordinary private person, okay? So that's essentially what I believe in, but that's not what was held in this particular case. Yes. Rishikesh, yes.
Yeah, sir. So while the judges pronounce cases that sovereign immunity is in function, and that through that the state cannot be held liable, there is Article 300 in the Constitution.
Yeah, we discussed that the other day. Yes.
Yeah, so which says that the state can be sued, and it can sue, and it is a juristic person in the country.
Yeah, even in that, okay, the state can be sued, okay, but even despite the presence of that particular article, there is still this distinction that exists, okay. So which is a theoretical question. So as I said, okay, when you read the law, okay, it's not just the black letters of the law, okay, which plays a part. So many other things also play a part. So just the way when you read Constitution, okay, Constitution is a written document, but there are also conventions, okay, which are not written anywhere, okay, but nonetheless forms part of that Constitution, isn't it? In the same way, okay, this idea of sovereign immunity, okay, it might not be written anywhere, okay, but judges might nonetheless believe in it, okay. And why is that the case? Here's the reason, okay. We are also part of a common law system, okay. We have something called common law in India, okay. Now, common law has a long history, okay. Common law is based on cases, okay. So even when you have a laid down laws in India, judges nonetheless interpret those laws in the light of those cases that pre-exist, okay. So as you see in this particular case, okay, the judge clearly refers to both Vidyapati's case as well as P&O steam signification, okay, while making this distinction between sovereign and non-sovereign functions, okay. So that's what I would say. So even when you have something clearly as Article 300, okay, that deals with suits and proceedings, okay, we discussed the other day that says that, okay, the governor of India may sue or be sued in the name of the. So when would that be the case? Okay, when would that be applicable here? So one would say, for example, one judge who actually believes in such a wide understanding of sovereign immunity would say that, okay, only in those cases which are not sovereign function will Article 300 be applicable. Do you understand, Rishikesh? This is what a judge would say. Okay.
Yeah, so this sounds a bit contradictory, because the wider scope of sovereign immunity means that almost all of the cases, all of the acts that the state commits come under the sovereign immunity.
So that's what I'm essentially saying, that it is necessary that we curtail the scope of what is known as sovereign power or sovereign immunity. That's what should have been a progressive judgment, but sadly, that wasn't the case in this particular case. But as I told you, subsequently so many developments happened that although this case in this case, it has not been explicitly overruled anywhere, but the authority has been attenuated to a great extent, okay, because of the subsequent developments. So as I told you, where would you find the other developments that happen subsequently, especially in the public laws, okay? So you have so many cases. So for example, in Rudul Shah versus state of Bihar, okay, and then you have Bhim Singh versus state of Jammu Kashmir. So many cases, okay. State has been compelled to pay compensation for violation, for infringement of fundamental rights, okay. So obviously that immunity no longer exists in the same way as it was understood by judges, in the 60s, okay. So the authority has been attenuated, okay. So you will come across judgments in which increasingly, without overruling the Kasturi Lal case, okay, you see more cases in which a very restricted definition of understanding of sovereign power has been held. So for example, this subsequent judgment that I mentioned, state of Gujarat versus Mammal MD, this particular case, because the confiscation, the seizure was illegal, it was held to be within his right to claim compensation. But then if the judge was of the same mentality, would have said that, okay, even in such case, a case of state immunity. So there is a way that without even overruling, you are able to attenuate the authority of a particular judgment. That is very much possible, as you see in common law courts. So is that okay?
Excuse me, sir.
Yes. Vishwajit, yes.
Sir, if in this time, if the sovereign body is negligent from his side, in any cases, then they also get the sovereign immunity.
They should not be. They should not be. They should not be is what I'm saying, okay? But, and as of now, in today's time, obviously not. And so, for example, some clear cases, so sovereign also, so for example, you have Indian Railways, then you have Air India, okay? Those are also certain, functions that the government, is doing, but it's not doing it directly. It's doing by virtue of creation of, companies, etc., okay, corporations, etc., okay? In those cases, there are clear cases of liability that can be imposed on, any such corporation, okay? But in other cases, okay, so for example, law and order is considered to be a clear case of, sovereign duty. But even in those cases, it is necessary that we, reduce, the scope, the ambit of sovereign immunity. So, for example, you are taken into police custody, you are beaten up, okay, which is clearly, we have so many authorities, okay, judicial authorities that proscribe, okay, such treatment, and it's clearly a violation of your fundamental right, okay. Something of that sort nonetheless happened, okay, as you know, it's clear to all of us, okay. So what can you do about it, okay? As you know, you have many authorities in which people have been paid compensation for, such treatment by the, officials, okay? So that's why I'm saying that it's no longer justifiable for the state to say that, okay, sovereign immunity, and hence justify every illegal act, okay, which would otherwise be considered illegal. So that's the state as it is today. But then, we probably need a clear authority that says that, okay, that defines what the sovereign, power or sovereign immunity should be. And once we have a clear definition, differentiation, that will probably make it easier for us, to identify what is, clearly a sovereign function and what is not. But, for your understanding's sake, as I told you, so for example, lawmaking power is clearly a case of sovereign function, okay? So for example, you have property. By virtue of enacting a law, your property is taken away. But you can talk about it being taken away in violation of fundamental right, which is property no longer is a fundamental right. But if it were, so for example, you would still say that, okay, it's a violation of fundamental right, okay? But instituting a tort case, okay, civil suit in the case, okay, doesn't make sense, because the, legislators are within their capacity to make laws, okay? You may not like, you take it to the court, consider it as a violation of fundamental right or other right, fine. But a civil suit probably does not make sense, okay? No administration, governance will be possible with, restrictions like that. So yeah, in those cases, you can clearly say that, yes, it's a case of sovereign function. Act of warfare, yeah, clearly a case of sovereign function. So yeah, all I'm saying is that the idea of sovereign immunity, sovereign power has to be restricted, okay, has to be limited. That's all I'm saying. But that's not what happened in this particular case. Is that clear now?
Yes, sir. Yes,
okay.
Sir.
Okay then. So if this is clear, under the public law, as you will study those in constitutional law later. So we won't go into all that for now. So the next would be your foreign sovereigns. Okay. So far the sovereign immunity that we were talking about, okay, was, as I told you at the very beginning, was about the sovereign as against the citizens, okay, as against the inhabitants of the country, okay. But what about foreign sovereigns, okay? So for example, can you initiate a case, okay, a civil suit, okay, as against a foreign sovereign, some sovereign head of another country? Can you do that? And what about foreign sovereign being able to sue you, okay? What are the what is the understanding, and what provision of law deals with that, okay? So we are already past our time, but let me complete this one, okay, for now, okay? I hope you wouldn't mind. Just quickly I'll complete this, otherwise it will be difficult to complete the syllabus, okay? So yeah, so in England, the understanding, as you know, okay, within the legal system, okay, the Austinian definition of sovereign, okay, they believed in, okay, so all sovereigns are superior within their legal system, okay, and no sovereign bows down before another sovereign, so all sovereigns are equal, okay, among them, okay. So suing a court, okay, suing a sovereign within the domestic court of a particular country, it just didn't make sense to the English jurists earlier, okay, so it could not have been done, okay. But then gradually that idea has changed, okay, because the idea of sovereign no longer exists the same way it existed earlier, okay. So for example, a country gets into trade with other countries, okay, in such case would we say that there is no way that they can be taken to court, okay, for their obligations that might arise? It just does not make sense to say so, okay. Now what about tort, okay? So in India we have to look at something very specific, okay. So you have to look at this section 86 of CPC, okay, section 86 of CPC, okay, that will tell you what happens, okay. So it says suits against foreign rulers, okay, ambassadors and envoys, okay. So section 86 of CPC deals with suits against foreign rulers, ambassadors and envoys, okay. So it says no foreign state may be sued in any court, okay, otherwise competent to try suit except with the consent of the central government certified in writing by a secretary to that government, okay. So you need certification by the secretary to the government before you start a suit against a foreign ambassador, okay. So that's the position as it exists, okay. Now this also overlaps with another thing, okay. Ambassadors, okay, also enjoy certain immunities, okay. So diplomatic envoys, okay, ambassadors, they also enjoy certain immunity, okay. And for that you also have a international convention, a treaty, okay. So Vienna Convention on Diplomatic Relations 1961 deals with certain immunities towards the diplomatic personnels, okay. So as you know, we follow the dualist system. So we have a domestic enactment, okay, by the name Diplomatic Relations Vienna Convention, okay, Act 1972, by virtue of which certain immunities have been made available to diplomatic personnels, okay. So yes, these are the immunities which exist, but you can nonetheless, okay, initiate a suit, okay, but you have to seek permission of the government, okay. So there are certain other restrictions which are imposed, so just go through that said section and you would see. So this preliminary information should suffice for this. Yes, Samriddhi.
So I had a question. Like recently, Barack Obama, he published his book, A Promised Land,
okay,
and a UP lawyer from Uttar Pradesh, sued him. So does this not come under the exceptions that you were talking about?
So see, Barack Obama is not a sovereign, okay. Is Barack Obama a sovereign? No longer. Okay, he used to be the head of the state. Okay, he used to be the head of the state. Nor is he an ambassador. Okay, he is not a diplomatic personnel. He is not an ambassador. Okay, so you can definitely initiate a suit against a person. Okay. And he's definitely not an alien enemy, so definitely we are, US will not be considered as alien enemy. So all those things do not apply. Okay, so even if it is a foreign citizen, okay, you can initiate a suit. Okay, but the question is, how do you enforce it against him? Okay, that is something which seems to be problematic here. So it's a separate issue. So we will not consider Barack Obama as a sovereign. Obviously not. Okay, it cannot be. Nor is he a diplomat. So I think this does not apply here. Okay, you can initiate a civil suit.
If he was a diplomat, then this would have been applied, right?
So yeah, if you could, if he was within the jurisdiction of the court, you can, but I don't think this is a case of civil suit. Is this a case of civil suit? No, I don't think so.
So he defamed some of the Indian leaders, I guess.
Yeah. So is it a case of civil suit or is it a criminal case?
I think it is a civil suit.
I have to check. So I will check and I'll come back to you then in the next class. Okay. So yeah, and we have two more things left. Those are essentially minors. Okay, minors liability in tort and lunatics. So yeah, not proper word. This is improper word. So yeah, person who have I don't know if I should use the most appropriate word here. Okay, so as you would say, person with mental incapacity. Okay, so these are the two things that we have left that we will discuss, and Samriddhi, I will deal with the question that you are leaving here. Okay, I will do my research. Yes, so
can you please check the chat box? I have a doubt.
Okay, sorry. Yeah, sorry, I didn't see this. Yeah, so Vishwajit, you can in fact take the sovereign to the court. Okay?
This is not my question, sir.
Sorry.
Sorry.
If war is a sovereign function and the state declares war against neighboring state and during the war instead of the enemy soldiers due to the misunderstanding. So humanitarian laws are there. Okay, IHL is there. IHL will play a part here. But the idea, it is still, okay, so you have international, criminal courts and all those things are there. So that's a matter of international law now, okay, trying someone within the domestic jurisdiction. Here for this, I think is not possible. Got the idea, Sohail? So
yes,
if you're saying that, okay, civilians have been violated, okay, then you have IHL, okay, international humanitarian law coming into, play here. So that's what you're going to deal